Love is one of the most used themes in every type of media imaginable. Movies, books, shows, and poems discuss the end of love, the beginning, and every moment in between. Oftentimes, the tone and approach usually falls into either a comedy or a drama, but with the horror genre, romance is rarely combined. When I think of films that combine these genres, Warm Bodies, Let the Right One In, and Little Monsters are the few that come to mind. Based on the book written in 2015, Bones and All follows a character named Maren who is a flesh-eating cannibal. On her 16th birthday, her mother leaves her to fend for herself. For the rest of the novel, we follow Maren as she travels across the US for a number of reasons, including to find her father, but mainly she's just trying to survive. A quarter into her journey, Maren meets Lee, who is also an eater, and they slowly start to fall in love. The novel touches on numerous themes like acceptance and loneliness, but the theme that stood out to me the most in both the novel and the movie is love. Also, for context, in the movie, Maren is abandoned after turning 18 opposed to 16 in the novel, and in the movie, her father leaves instead of her mother. Maren and Lee's love story is the focal point of this film. Starting off as road companions, they become friends and eventually romantic partners. Their understanding and love for each other played out so beautifully. No one knew or understood their plight, so they depended and confided in one another. Moments like when Maren meets her mom for the first time and Lee confessing what truly happened to his dad cemented a bond that neither were able to experience before. Being able to discuss the struggles of being an eater, like loneliness and self-acceptance, was such a specific thing that only those two could understand. At the very end of the movie, which is my favorite part, Maren and Lee are trying to live a normal and happy life in one place. This is when Sully sneaks into their apartment with the intention of either getting Maren for himself or eating her. Lee comes in and together they're able to unalive Sully. In the process, Lee ends up being stabbed. He also finds out that his sister was eaten by Sully as well. He pleads with Maren to eat him bones and all, and she complies. Lee making this plea was out of love. He knew he was going to die and wanted to be with her forever, and Maren felt obliged to give him his dying wish. Earlier in the film, we learned that eating bones and all is a rite of passage and changes you forever.
Full bones.
When you eat the whole thing, bones and all. You ain't done that yet? That's a big fucking deal. It's like your first time. There's before bones and all, and then there's after.
So not only is the loss of her first and probably only great love an immense change, but she's also eating him in his entirety, which changes you as an eater. In the novel, after Lee successfully unalives Sully, he wins the fight unharmed. Because he's in love with Maren, he proclaims that he doesn't care if Maren eats her. As they're laying in bed, things start to progress between the two, and Maren attempts to stop it, but Lee tells her he doesn't care. The next chapter cuts off right there, and then we see Maren a few weeks later hunting for her next victim. She doesn't seem sad or upset that Lee is gone. Her reaction doesn't line up with the way she has felt in the past when she's eaten other people. Usually she's full of guilt, but with Lee, it seems like she felt nothing. Also in the novel, Lee was constantly doting on Maren and it seemed to never be reciprocated. It could be that Maren was trying to protect Lee from getting too close, and if he got closer, she wouldn't be able to stop the urge to eat him, but she ended up eating him anyway. Maren being devastated for the loss of Lee would have made a lot more sense for the story and her realizing that there is nothing she can do about her urge to eat people who care for her. Her losing a great love despite her resistance, mourning that loss, and eventually accepting herself would have made the story come full circle. I'm glad the movie changed the ending because Lee was supposed to be her first love and deepest connection. Eating him, bones and all, was supposed to be her greatest loss. Before I continue on, I want to give a shout out to my non-existent sponsor, Suave.
7 years today. When Jim and I started out, we were on a tight budget. And that's when I discovered Suave. After Jim got a promotion, I tried those expensive shampoos and conditioners. You know what? They weren't any better. They just cost more. So I came back to Suave. I don't have to spend a fortune on my hair. Suave just makes me look like I do.
Try Suave's new Extra Protection shampoo and conditioner and look like you spent a fortune on your hair.
At the beginning of the film and novel, it was clear that Maren always felt alone even when she wasn't. Only being raised by a single parent, Maren's parental figure always kept her at a distance. Due to Maren's urge to eat, they never had the option to stay in one place for long. Even though her father seemed to care for her, raising Maren seemed more like an obligation opposed to love. In the film, when Maren is invited to a sleepover, it's clear that both girls have some attraction for one another. When the other girls attempt to talk to them, Kim gets irritated by their interruption and continues talking to Maren.
Trying to talk.
As they slowly move closer to each other, you can feel the tenseness in the scene. In what seems sexual at first, Maren starts sucking on her finger, but that quickly changes as flesh starts to come off. Maren runs home and you can see her father Frank show a range of emotions within a few seconds. He seems frustrated, tired, and sad when Maren admits to doing the same thing she always does. His reaction aligns perfectly with his decision to leave Maren on her 18th birthday. Throughout the rest of the film, Maren listens to the recorded tape he left for her. He's clearly upset about his decision because his voice is shaky out of either fear of those dark retellings and/or sadness. In one specific scene, he explains his love for her.
I don't know if I loved you the way a father should, but I didn't hate you.
This notion of loving her out of obligation opposed to a more fatherly, unconditional love was easy to see during his short appearance in the film. His words just confirm that. In the novel, it's clear that Maren and her mother Janelle's dynamic is complex. When she found out she was pregnant, Maren was told that her mother never smiled that much before. She wanted her and loved her even before she met her. Once she found out what Maren was, that's when she became sad, cold, and distant. There were no home-cooked meals, and there weren't any hugs or kisses. She raised her, and as soon as she thought Maren could take care of herself, she left. In one specific chapter, Janelle brings Maren to a company party at her boss's house. Before she went to mingle, she demanded that Maren behave because she really loves his job. Of course, when Maren gets close to the boss's son, she eats him and they're forced to leave again. Because Janelle can never settle down anywhere or make permanent connections, Maren's liability clearly starts to outweigh the love she has for her. Because the novel focuses on Maren's perspective, throughout the book she claims that her mother never loved her, and it makes you sort of believe it. When Maren finds her grandparents' address, she decides to go because she thinks her mother is there. When she arrives, through the window she sees her mom crying, clearly distraught about the tough decision she had to make. With the lack of affection combined with this reaction, I feel like her mom's love for her falls somewhere in the middle. Janelle loves Maren, but she cares about her happiness and well-being more. In the film, when Maren meets a man named Sully, she discovers that not only is he like her, but he also has guidelines as to how he chooses his victims. Sully is unlike other eaters because not only can he smell people like him, but he can also tell when someone is going to die. That's why when Maren follows him back to a home, she discovers an older woman laying on the floor, slowly dying. Maren is shocked by this because her rules for eating are very different. She doesn't want to eat anyone at all and usually only folds when she feels the all-consuming urge. When Maren meets Lee at the store, she discovers that he has rules for eating too. He only eats people who are a-holes and sticks with this throughout both the film and the novel. One element that I wish would have transferred from the novel to the film is Maren's rule. Even though nature established hers, in the novel she only truly ate people if there was some attraction or infatuation involved. The closer she is with someone, the harder it is for her to resist the urge. Besides the sitter Maren ate when she was a baby, every victim was someone she felt close to. She eats her mom's boss's son after he tried to show his parts to her, the guy who worked at the store who showed her kindness, and eventually Lee. Even after Maren ate her victims, they stayed with her forever. If they were kind to her or made her laugh, she constantly replayed those memories. In the film, Maren eats pretty much anyone. Even though the opening scene suggests she only eats people who she shares an attraction to, for the rest of the film, she doesn't have any guidelines or rules. First it was the older lady who was already dying, and then it was the rude guy who worked at the carnival who Lee killed and she just ate. Making this change took away a unique element from the novel. Because Maren craved the love, affection, and attention she never received from her mother, people who gave her even an ounce of this was someone she wanted to keep with her forever. I know this film came out a while ago, but it was my favorite of 2022. The way it portrayed love felt so unique, honest, but also complex. Even though they are the predators in this story, you feel sympathy for them because you watch the progression of them feeling lonely, finding companionship, falling in love, and then losing it. Yeah, I know that was a sad description, but if you haven't watched this film, I really think you should. Also, if you have a weak stomach, it is not the movie for you. Lastly, I want to say that this film is so stunning and the performances were 10 out of 10. Taylor Russell, she's a force to be reckoned with, and I hope people pay attention to her because she killed it in this movie, and she killed it in Waves as well. I want to say thank you for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Bye!